Everyone talks about the big boy like it was untouchable. 135,000 pounds of tractive effort, the most famous locomotive ever built. And the Allegheny? Lima built that thing to produce 7,500 horsepower at the drawbar. These machines are legends, and every rail fan knows their names. So here is the question nobody asks. How did a locomotive that outpulled both of them just vanish from history? The Norfolk and Western Y6b was rated at up to 170,000 pounds of starting tractive effort after Roanoke's final round of modifications, according to Norfolk and Western's own test data, and every single Y6b ever built is gone, scrapped, extinct. The last one sat in a Roanoke scrapyard for well over a decade while rail fans scrambled to save it. They needed $50,000. A British company bought the yard and gave them almost no time. They could not raise it. In February 1976, the torches came out. One of the heaviest hitting steam locomotives America ever built got cut apart because nobody had $50,000. So let me tell you what made this thing so special. The Y6b was not built by Baldwin or Lima or ALCO. Norfolk and Western built it themselves in their own Roanoke Shops. This railroad did not buy locomotives like everyone else. They designed and constructed their own power in-house from scratch. For decades, the Roanoke Shops produced hundreds of steam locomotives, all for Norfolk and Western and nobody else. That level of in-house locomotive building was rare in American railroading. The Y6b was the final evolution of more than 2 decades of compound mallet development. Most big articulated locomotives in the 1940s used simple expansion. Think the big boy, the Allegheny, the Challengers. High-pressure steam goes into all 4 cylinders, does its work, and exhausts out the stack. Simple to build, simple to maintain, and you get massive horsepower. But you also burn through coal and water because you only use the steam once. The Y6b was a true compound, the last of its kind on any major American railroad. Steam first went into the smaller high-pressure cylinders at the rear, then exhausted into the massive low-pressure cylinders up front for a second push. You use the same steam twice before it goes out the stack. That meant significantly less coal and water per ton moved. But compounds were supposed to be slow and outdated, the kind of technology railroads abandoned in the 1920s because they could not keep up with faster freight schedules. Norfolk and Western did not care what other railroads thought. They kept refining the compound design year after year, and by 1952, they had turned this old concept into something nobody expected. The Y6b could run in compound mode for efficiency during normal operation, then flip the reducing valve and run in simple mode when it needed maximum grunt. Starting a heavy coal train from a dead stop on a grade? Hit the simple valve. All 4 cylinders get live steam at 300 pounds per square inch boiler pressure. 170,000 pounds of starting tractive effort in simple mode slams into the rails. Once the train gets rolling, switch back to compound mode and save fuel. The engineers at Roanoke had to add about 28,000 pounds of lead ballast to the front engine frame just to keep the wheels from slipping under all that incredible power. The locomotive was so ridiculously strong, it would spin its own drivers unless they were physically weighed down at the front. And the tonnage these things moved was insane. After World War II, Norfolk and Western's big Y-class Mallets were rated to haul 14,500-ton coal trains from Crewe to Lambert's Point without helpers. Not as a stunt, as a normal tonnage rating. One locomotive, nearly 15,000 tons of coal, rolling through Virginia to the port at Norfolk. The Y6b weighed around 600,000 pounds, with roughly 500,000 pounds sitting on the drivers, and it ran on a 300 pounds per square inch boiler. 500,000 pounds on the drivers gave it enormous starting grip when adhesion held. The tender carried about 30 tons of coal and roughly 22,000 gallons of water for those long mountain runs. The big boy was designed to haul heavy freight over the steep grades of Sherman Hill. But when it came to pure pulling muscle at starting and low speed, the Y6b was in the absolute top tier of American steam power. So why does nobody remember this locomotive? Norfolk and Western was one of the last major railroads in America to abandon steam. They held out into 1959 and 1960, long after everyone else had dieselized. Norfolk and Western loved steam because they hauled coal. Their main business was moving coal from Appalachian mines to the coast. Burning coal to haul coal made perfect business sense. They had their own fuel supply sitting right there on the trains behind them. In 1952, the railroad ran a head-to-head test. Y6b number 2197 went up against a brand new set of EMDF-7 diesel locomotives, 4 units in ABBA configuration. On paper, the result was basically a tie on fuel costs, at least according to Norfolk and Western's own numbers, and the steam locomotives were already paid off. So Norfolk and Western kept running their compounds. They did not order road diesels until 1955, years after everyone else had switched over. But the end was coming. Parts were getting hard to find because other railroads had scrapped their steam. Suppliers stopped making components when demand collapsed, and diesels needed less maintenance. By the late 1950s, the Y6b fleet was heading to the scrappers. The last compound Mallets died at the turn of the decade. Here is the tragedy that haunts every rail fan who knows this story. One Y6b almost survived. Number 2174 ran the farewell to steam excursion in July 1959 alongside a Class A locomotive. After retirement, it ended up at United Iron and Metal in Roanoke. The scrapyard did not prioritize cutting it up. Number 2174 sat there for years, rusting in a corner, while preservationists tried to find the money to save it. Rail fans tried desperately. The Roanoke chapter of the National Railway Historical Society launched a campaign. They needed $50,000, the scrap value. Then in 1975, a British company bought the scrapyard. New owners had no sentimental attachment. They wanted everything gone. They gave the preservationists almost no time to raise the money. It was not enough time to raise $50,000 in 1975. No internet, no crowdfunding, no viral campaigns. It was simply impossible. In February 1976, the acetylene torches came out. One of the most powerful steam locomotives ever built for American rails disappeared into scrap metal forever. Today, there is no Y6b anywhere on Earth. The only survivors from the Y class are a Y3A at the Illinois Railway Museum and a Y6A at the National Museum of Transportation in St. Louis. They are close relatives with similar designs, but not the final most powerful version with the variable valve system. 8 big boys still exist, and one runs excursion trains today. 2 Alleghenies survive in museums, but the locomotive that beat them both on tractive effort has 0 examples preserved, completely extinct. Norfolk and Western called the Y6b the workhorse of the railroad. Some rail fans called it part of the holy trinity of Roanoke steam, alongside the beautiful streamlined J-class passenger engines and the fast Class A freight haulers. The Y6b was not pretty, it was not fast, it did not have a streamlined shroud or a fancy name. It pulled harder than the famous icons that everyone worships. And now, it exists only in photographs, engineering drawings, and the fading memories of the men who ran them through the mountains of Virginia and West Virginia. The forgotten locomotive that was more powerful than the big boy in the Allegheny is gone forever because nobody could scrape together $50,000 in time.